Hi friends, it's me. I'm not quite sure when I'm going to upload this, but I want to start out by saying thank you so much for allowing me to have some extra time with my family this past month. Scooter has been doing fantastic since then. He had a couple weeks where it was pretty bad. So I was grateful to have the extra time on the weekends and my evenings to spend with him, to give him the care that he needs, and to just be present with myself and with my family. So thank you always for your compassion and your generosity, which you extended so warmly towards me and stuck with me over the last month. But I am here and I'm ready to be on my mat. Sitting a little different today because my feet kind of feel like they're falling asleep. So I'm going to give them some extra blood flow as we sit and chat before I get started. So we're going to focus on back bends today. I want you to pay special attention to about the level of your low ribs and up. So this is really where we want most of our back bends to be happening today. From our low ribs to our pelvis, we want to keep this area of our spine generally as neutral as possible for as long as possible in any of our back bends. This way we can get the benefits of opening through the chest without causing any undue tension to accumulate in our lower lumbar spine, which a lot of us struggle with from either our lumbar spine being a little bit weak because we maybe work desk jobs or we drive trucks or something like that. We're in a seated position, or we just don't get that much activity now that the snow is finally melting through our backs. So it is about 50 degrees today, I believe. So Scooter and I are going to go outside after this. But you can hear the rain or the melting snow in our rain gutters here. So if you can hear some tapping like that through practice today, just know that that's all that is. In terms of props that you're going to want to have, you definitely are going to want to have some blocks. You might want to have a blanket if you have sensitive knees. Let's start by getting into our seated meditation, as always. So whatever position works for you today is fine. I actually might take mine in this modified Malasana pose with my seat down and my feet on the floor, just so that I can get some blood flow into my legs. But if you want to sit up, lay down, whatever's comfortable for you, that's totally fine by me. We just want to find a position in which the body is not distracting and we can focus on our breath. So wherever you are, take a few moments. Center yourself in your space. Maybe bring your attention to the floor underneath you, or if you happened to do something else, like today I happened to put some perfume on, so I'm going to use that as my centering piece, the sensation of smell. So whatever you need to do to bring yourself into your present moment here on your mat, use tools that are available to you: sight, sound, smell, touch. And as you bring yourself into the present moment, being present with your body and with your breath, bring your attention to your spine. So notice how it's feeling today. Do you have areas where there is tension? Maybe you have some soreness, overuse, overstretching. And notice if there are areas that aren't quite neutral. Oftentimes when we sit down, there's a little bit of extra curve somewhere, maybe some slouching. And this isn't necessarily bad, it's just a function of how our day went, how our week's been going. So maybe throughout class you can pay attention to these areas that could maybe be changed for the better. And throughout practice today, we want to focus on being present in our body as it is, so not where we think it needs to be. So this part of class, this beginning meditation, is especially important so that we can understand where we're starting from. Few more breaths here. And so when you're ready, from wherever you are, you can feel your breath begin to deepen. If you happen to be laying down, you can slowly make your way up to seated as we feel the eyes open and a bit more energy coming into the body with our expanded breath. So from here, from seated, we're going to work our way all the way up to standing right away. So, I'm going to move my blocks off my mat. If you'd like, you can come into downward facing dog before you transition all the way up to standing. It's up to you. Take a moment here, pressing through the spine, pressing through the heels, feeling the fingers spreading wide. Tucking the chin, keeping the spine neutral here. And then we can slowly walk the feet up in between the hands. And just to start so that we have some understanding of how the spine moves today, we're going to take the knees, keep them bent, allow our chest to come down onto our thighs, and then from here we'll slowly roll up one vertebra at a time. So really taking note of how the spine is moving, noticing if there are any spots that seem a little sticky. We can roll through the shoulders in one direction and then the other. I apologize, I will probably keep my sweater on today because it is cold in my house because it's warm enough outside, but the heat has not kicked on. So, doing what we can with what we got, right? Take the good and the bad. So, pressing our hands together, pressing the thumbs against the breastbone. Take a moment, feel all of the four corners of your feet in your mat. So big toe, little toe, outside edge, inside edge of the heel. Noticing how your weight is balanced between these 4 points. Sometimes you can even close your eyes, get a really good sense of the way your body is settled and connected with the ground today. Then on an exhale, we'll release our hands. Inhale, they come up overhead. We're moving through A series. So exhale, come all the way down into your own lap. Tuck your chin. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, hands down, step back. Move your way through vinyasa. So take your time. Choose whatever version of vinyasa works for you. If that's traditional, which is moving through plank. Exhaling chaturanga. Inhaling upward face, exhaling downward face, or if it's some other version of moving with your breath, that's fine. So at the bottom of the exhale, stepping the feet up in between the hands, inhale, half lifting, exhale, forward folding, and then bending the knees, inhaling, coming all the way up, hands above the head, exhale, Samasthiti. So we'll switch to C series. Big inhale. Exhale, release. Inhale, hands come up overhead. Now we want to think about lifting the entire rib cage up and off the pelvis. So once we lift from here, then we take the very top of the chest up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, come all the way down into our own lap. No half lift with C series. So from here, planting the hands, picking up the right foot, reaching back, releasing the right knee, top of the right foot. Here we are in low lunge. So if you'd like, you can use blocks underneath your hands. What's key here is we want to focus on keeping the front part of our hips parallel to the front part of our mat. So no sliding open here. Keeping the front hip reaching straight back. And trying to keep the pelvis relatively neutral. So we're not tipping it forward. Keeping it all together, moving all in one piece. Big inhale here. Big exhale. Tuck under the, well, pick up the front foot. No. Tuck under the toes. Lift the back knee. Move your blocks out of the way. Pick up the front foot. Step it back. Then knees, chest, and chin. Ashtanga Pranam. 8-point stick. Coming all the way down onto your mat. Pubic bone reaching down towards the floor. So do not let your tail fly up towards the ceiling. Then inchworm all the way down on your belly. Inhale, lift up for cobra. Exhale, transition back through tabletop. Tuck under the toes. Lift up for downward facing dog. Big inhale. Big exhale. Bottom of the exhale. Right foot comes up in between the hands. Left knee, top of the left foot, come down. Maybe we use our blocks again. But checking in, making sure our hips are parallel to the top of the mat. Dropping the hips all the way down towards the floor. All right, from here, tucking under the toes, lifting the back knee, shifting the weight forwards up so that we can step in between the hands, coming into our forward fold. Then from here, bend the knees, inhale, come all the way up, hands up above the head, lifting. Small standing back bend. Exhale, Samasthiti. Again, big inhale. Exhale, release. Inhale, hands come up, lifting the chest. Exhaling, coming all the way down into our own lap. No half lift, remember. So this time we'll do left foot back first. And this time, if you want, you might want to put a blanket down so we can come down onto the knee. Again, blocks underneath the hands if you would like. So now from here, we're in our low lunge, just like we did before, but we're going to investigate some action here. So from this position, we're going to lift the back knee up, back foot up, set it down. Lift the back foot up, set it down. Now it only comes as far up as you can without hiking hips. So sometimes there's a tendency to want to come away from the low lunge. I'm going to stay down. Or maybe you only get an inch off the floor. Maybe you don't get off the floor at all. This is building strength through the hamstring. Ooh. All right, that's about it for me because I feel like I'm starting to pop up. So then from here, get the hands, tuck under the back toes, lift the back knee, front foot steps back, 8-point stick, knees, chest, and chin come all the way down. Ashtanga Pranam. Then inchworm forwards. Inhale, lift up through your chest. And then transition back through tabletop. Wonderful. Downward facing dog. This time left foot comes forward in between the hands. Right knee comes down onto your mat. Same thing. Find your low lunge. Keeping the hips parallel to the short edge of your mat. Now from here, bend your back foot. Your back knee. Bring your foot forwards. My goodness. So you can move with your breath, but keep your hips quiet. As quiet as you can. One more if you can. All right. Then from here, tuck under the back toes, lift the back knee. If you'd like, move your blocks out of the way. Rock the weight just enough so you can step up. In between your hands, tuck your chin. Then from here, bend the knees, inhale, come all the way up. Hands all the way towards the ceiling, lift your chest. And exhale, Samasthiti Ki. I think that's enough of that. I was going to do another one, but that's enough. So this time we'll take the right foot, and we're going to step it straight back. This is a continued variation here. So we're stepping it straight back. You can put the heel down if you need to in order to kind of get yourself situated. But eventually we want both sets of toes parallel, pointing directly towards the top of your mat. So this is not warrior one. This is a high crescent lunge. So in warrior one, you can see my toes are turned out. In high crescent lunge, they're turned neutral. So they're not turned in, they're neutral. Then from here, bending the front knee and allowing the heel on the back foot to reach down towards the mat, but it does not touch. So if your heel touches, move your foot further back so you get this stretch, kind of like downward facing dog, okay? And at the same time, hips remain parallel here. Now you can leave your hands on your hips. You can bring them together and lift them up. But to start, we might keep them low. And then we're going to keep our front knee coming over our second toe so that you can see your big toe on the inside edge of your front knee. We're going to bend the back knee and see if we can come towards the floor. It does not need to touch. So you'll notice we're doing a lot of work with bending through our back bends with our legs, which is interesting dynamics. Great for strength building. Let's do one more. Oh, goodness. Then from here, find some stillness, press the hands together, lift up into a high crescent lunge. And then from here, hands come all the way down, step back, and let's move through vinyasa. So we'll come into downward facing dog and move through whatever version of vinyasa suits you. If that's just coming down onto hands and knees and doing cat, extended cat stretches, that's absolutely fine. One more breath here. Then we're going to bring the right foot forward this time in between the hands, and we'll come up. So same thing, both sets of toes parallel to the short edge of your mat. And we want maybe some horizontal space in between the feet. So if you have a really hard time keeping your balance on the left side, maybe try finding some more space horizontally on your mat. Okay? So then we'll bend the front knee, keeping the back toes pointing directly forward, and the hips neutral. So they're not dropping forwards or spilling forwards. We have the front part of the hips lifting so that it's just as if you had a chair underneath you that you were going to sit down on. Kind of like we do with our Warrior Two pose. Think about that hip action. Now from here, we're going to work with the back leg. So take a big inhale. Exhale, bend the knee. Inhale, lift up. And so all of the action is in the back leg. Maybe this front one pivots a little bit just to accommodate the movement, but all of the energy is back here. Let's do one more. Excellent. And then stay here in your low lunge. Ooh, your high lunge, excuse me. Make sure you can see your big toe on the inside edge here of your front knee. And then press the hands together. Lift up for high crescent lunge. Drop your tailbone down towards the floor. Excellent. Bringing your hands down. Step back. Move through your vinyasa, whatever that happens to be. Taking your time. Excellent. And from our downward facing dog, take a breath here. Feel the length of your spine. And then when you're ready, on an exhale at the very bottom, step the feet up in between the hands. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. And then bend your knees. Inhale, come all the way up. Hands to high prayer. And exhale, Samasthiti. So let's try B series. So this has another back bend in it. A couple back bends. So big inhale here. Exhale, bring your fingertips down towards your mat. Drop your tailbone, pick up your pubic bone. So feel the low belly start to hollow out here. Press the hands together and then lift through just your heart. And then exhale, come all the way down into forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, hands down, step back. Move through your vinyasa. Now remember, you can always skip these and just stay in downward facing dog. You can make this class as easy or as difficult as you want. All right. So from here, left toes turn out. Right foot comes up behind the right hand. Right knee comes forward. Right hip reaches back. So then as we come up, your hips should be parallel to the short edge of your mat. If they're not, step the back foot forward and to the outside. So then from here, pressing the hands together, inhale, lift up through heart center. Feel your shoulders sliding down your back. Soften your gaze. And then exhale, come all the way down. Snap back. Move through your vinyasa. Nice and easy. Then from here, right toes turn out. Left foot comes forward behind the left hand. Left knee reaches forward, left hip reaches back as you come up. Hips should be parallel to the short edge of the mat. If they're not, back foot comes forward and to the outside. Then press the hands together. Now lift up. Warrior one. Nice and soft. Check in with your toes. Make sure they're not gripping. And then exhale, come all the way down. Step back. Move through your vinyasa. Couple breaths here. So we're going to take a moment in our downward facing dog to really focus on lengthening the spine. So I would invite you to lift up your heels, bend your knees deeply, press your butt straight back as if you could sit on a wall behind you.
Feel your low ribs pulling in towards the spine to neutralize and straighten out your back. Then from here, without adjusting the spine, slowly work towards lengthening the legs and feeling the heels reaching towards the floor. One more big inhale and exhale here. Then at the bottom of the exhale, stepping the feet up in between the hands. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Tuck your chin. Then from here, bend the knees deeply. Brush the fingertips off your mat. Lift your heart for Utkatasana or fierce pose. And then exhale, come back to neutral. Samasthiti. All right, so from here, we'll work on triangle pose, which does not have back bend in it. So it's important to continue to do strengthening poses and really fire up our abdominal wall as we work with more deep back bends, because we really want to hold on so that we're not crunching the low spine. So in our triangle pose, we have heel to heel alignment. Oh my goodness, I'm going to fall off my mat. So heel to heel alignment here. Front toes pointing towards the short edge, back toes pointing towards the long edge, or maybe slightly forwards. And I like to teach with my hands on my hips to start. So we never lock these two joints, our two knee joints here. Keep them nice and soft the whole time. But we want to imagine somebody is poking us with their finger and we're reaching our front hips straight back to get away from there. Now this whole time we're keeping the spine nice and steady. It's moving as one entire unit with the hips. So hands to hips, we're going to make like we're a little teapot, short and stout. Front hip reaches straight back. Take your time and only go as far as you can without pain. So for me, this hip feels a little funny today. This feels really tight. So for me, this is all the rotation I have through my hips today on this side. So I'm going to stay up nice and high. Remember, the point of triangle is to keep the spine long. It's not to touch the floor. See the difference? So I'm going to keep my spine nice and long. I'm going to stay way up here. I'm going to take my top hand. Maybe it drops down. Take my top shoulder. My bottom hand drops down. Top shoulder rotates open towards the ceiling. As it rotates, we feel the abdominal wall start to engage. So there's no back bend here, right? We're keeping everything tucked in. And then maybe we lift up towards the ceiling with the opposite hand. And only go as far as you need to. Most of the pose, in my opinion, is through this leg here, through the back, and ton of work here in the side body. So just do what you need to in order to feel the work in the pose. And then when you're ready, we come up and out. Pivot the feet. Heel to heel alignment on the other side. So again, I'm a little teapot, feeling somebody poke me right here in this hip flexor, reaching this hip straight back. Now see, I have lots more room on this side. Something funny is going on over here. Now, once the hips don't move any further, bottom hand relaxes down, top shoulder rotates open, low ribs, close the gap. So then from here, if it's not too heavy, top hand can come up. Big inhales, big exhales. Really feeling the work here through the abdominal wall, holding on. And then when you feel ready, top hand, windmills down, step back and move through vinyasa. Take your time, move with integrity through your poses. If you cannot move with integrity, you start getting tired, choose different poses. Pick something that works for you, that you can feel safe in. All right. So from here, we'll step forward with one of our feet, turn both sets of toes towards the long edge of the mat. We're gonna come into wide-legged forward fold. So I'm gonna use my blocks in front of me so that I have something to stand up, or to bring my hands down onto. So outside edge of the feet, roughly parallel, which might mean that your toes turn in a little bit. And from here, hands to hips, inhale, lift up through your chest. Exhale, bend the knees and bring your hands down onto your blocks or whatever else you might be using for your lift. So we'll just take a moment here. If you pop your blocks up really high, you might even be able to find neutral with your spine. So for me, with my arms down on my blocks at the highest height, my spine is almost horizontal. From the back of my pelvis, up through my torso, out through the back of my neck. And we'll just take a moment here. This is kind of like a downward dog spine where we're just keeping it neutral. All right, so then from here, we'll move our blocks out of the way if we can and bring the hands down onto the floor, or just lower your prop to whatever level you can that it's safe for you, that you're still getting a stretch through the legs. And so we'll bend the knees deeply, allow the torso to come down in between the thighs or resting on the thighs, and then work towards straightening the legs. But know that they don't have to be straight. You can walk the hands a little bit further back in between the feet if that's comfortable for you, to give you a little bit of support. So we're just coming into traditional wide-legged forward fold. So find a way to support your pose that is comfortable for you, that is safe for you, but also allows you to work a little bit in your posture. Tuck your chin, gaze behind you if you can. Allow the weight of your head to drop down towards the floor and lengthen through your neck. Sometimes it's wonderful to let the head go. And from here, we'll walk the hands back out. If you'd like, bring them back up onto your prop. Take a breath here. Then we'll bend the knees deeply. Bring the hands to the hips and inhale, come all the way up. If you have a head rush, let that pass. And then we're going to pivot both the feet back up to the top of the mat. So from here, we'll come through A series, hands to heart, big inhale here. Exhale, release, hands come up overhead. Exhale, coming all the way back down into our own lap. Inhale, half lifting. Exhale, hands down. Step back, move through your vinyasa. Taking your time. All right, so now from our downward facing dog, we're going to transition back to plank and then come all the way down onto our bellies. So however you need to get there, we're coming all the way down onto our stomach. So we're going to work with Shalabhasana here, which is an upper back bend. So we're going to bring the palms back by the thighs. So bring them back, palm face up, and feel neutral here through your shoulders, okay? So I want you to take a moment and really think about what it feels like for your shoulders to be relaxed, what it feels like for the front of your chest to be soft. Okay, so we're gonna compare and contrast this. So now from here, we're gonna take the palms, turn them down to the floor. So you might notice now, with just this simple rotation, you may begin to feel a subtle engagement across the front of your chest. For some of us, maybe this sensation is a little subtle. So if that's the case, you don't quite feel the activation here, we're going to prepare for our back bend. Then you will. So I imagine taking all 10 toes of my feet and pressing them into the mat along with the tops of the feet, pressing my thighs into the mat, pressing my pubic bone into the mat. Then from here, bringing my attention back to my hands, finding lots of space in between my fingers, entire palm down on the floor with the exception of the very middle. So it's kind of up like a suction cup, I guess. And then from here, we'll bend the elbows, press the palms into your mat. So you're pressing your hands down into the floor and acting as if you could draw your hands up towards your shoulders through this bend in the elbows. So now hopefully you're starting to feel some engagement across your chest wall. Then from here, pressing the lower body into the mat, including the pubic bone. As you bend your elbows, working towards imagining you're bringing your hands up towards your shoulders, maybe the chest comes up off the floor. Low ribs stay down. So this is just the upper back. Lower back is neutral. So this is Shalabhasana or locust pose. And then when you're ready, you can release, turn your head in one direction, and you can roll your hips back and forth. Nice and easy. We'll try that one more time. So start by pressing the tops of the feet into the mat, press your thighs into the mat, press your pubic bone into the mat, press your hands into the mat, bend the elbows, then lift the chest. And take deep breaths here. Maybe your toes can come off the mat if you still press down through your pubic bone. So now you can launch the legs and get a nice curve from your head to your heels. One more big breath here. Then release. Come all the way down. Release the hands. You can turn them palm face up again. Roll through the hips. If you have lots of tension in your low back, sometimes it's nice to flex the knees and roll from side to side, dropping your ankles from side to side. All right, so when you feel ready, we're slowly going to transition up and back through child's pose, nice and slow. So we're not spasming our backs. You can shift the hips from side to side here as well. And then when your back feels released, we'll move through Vinyasa. You guessed it. Take your time. Even if it's cat, extended cat, or you just stay in child's pose the whole time. All of that is fine. Then we'll come all the way back down onto our knees. We're going to try Ustrasana or camel pose. So, if you have a blanket, I advise throwing it down on your mat just so that you can have some cushion underneath the knees. And then I like to take one of my blocks and put it at the medium height, so about 6 inches in between my thighs. So I like to have it a good maybe 3 or 4 inches above my actual knee joint. Actually, I changed my mind. I don't want 6 inches, I want 4 inches. So the smallest width of your block here, like that. I don't know if you can hear Scooter, but he is snoring. It's a little distracting for me. So we're going to start out by coming up onto our knees and just finding neutral with the pelvis. So maybe this in and of itself is a big practice for us. So this has a bend in the hips here. You can see my tailbone is reaching back and away from me. So I want to find neutral here. So front of the pelvis is soft. So all of the hip openers we did at the beginning, especially across the front of the hip flexors, Should hopefully help us get neutral here. And we want to envision our tailbone really heavy. And if we can, we're keeping the hips over the knees this entire time. If anything, maybe they even move forward past the knees through the progression of this pose, okay? So I like to bring my hands onto my hips. And just like we did with our standing back bend, you can tuck your toes if you need to, but we're just going to keep this simple. With our standing back bend, we're imagining lifting up through the spine, so growing as long as possible first, then lifting with just the top of the chest, then maybe progressing the back bend a little bit backwards, but not until those first two steps are accomplished. So, from here, growing up nice and tall, then lifting the top of the spine up towards the ceiling. Hands can be either at your hips, or I like mine a little bit behind, so on the back pads of the hips here, and then lift up and off your spine, up and off the hips as the hips move forwards and your heart moves up. Head comes back last, and it just relaxes onto your shoulders behind you. And then when you're ready, you can inhale and come up. So like I said, lots of options for stopping and working in this pose. So for some of us, maybe we just stay here and focus on finding neutral with the pelvis. Maybe we focus on growing. Maybe we focus then on lifting up and back. So one more time here. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, lift back. Inhale, come up. And if you have it in you, maybe one more time. Really feeling the thighs coming together, tailbone dropping down, lifting up through the heart. Exhaling back. Try to breathe through your back bend. And then inhale and come up. Same thing coming back into child's pose for our counter pose. So you can move the block out of the way, or for me, sometimes I like to have it underneath my head just to give myself a little bit of extra support because I love myself. So you can shift the hips from side to side here. This is one of my favorite things to do after this pose is come into child's pose and then shift the hips off and to the left, shift them off and to the right. As you do that, you can roll through your forehead, softening your muscles on your mat or whatever prop you happen to be using. Wonderful massage for the forehead. All the tight muscles there as well. All right, when you're ready, move your block out of the way. Move through vinyasa. If you have it in you, notice how your back bend, if you choose to do one, feels now in this pose. Notice how the forward folding action of downward facing dog feels if you choose to do that in your vinyasa. All right. When you're ready, we're going to come all the way back down onto our seats. Move our blanket out of the way. We're going to come into some forward folds. So I like to have my feet straight in front of me. We're going to come into Dandasana and then Paschimottanasana. So Dandasana first. Legs straight in front. Hands back by the hips so the fingertips are just kind of in line with the hips themselves. Hands down on the floor. We're going to press through the heels as if you could stand on the wall in front of you. So the whole leg here is engaged. So you're standing with all this energy. Pressing into your hands, lifting up through the chest as if you could pick your butt up off the floor, but your elbows remain bent. So we can't. Then as you press through the hands, feel the whole front line, back line of the body, turn on, and then tuck the chin and look down your front line. So it's a deceptively very energetic pose. And then when you're ready, release. Roll through the shoulders. And then we'll inhale, lift up with both arms. Exhale, come forwards into a forward fold. So take your time here. Find slight internal rotation through the legs. So we're feeling the pinky side of our feet drawing up towards us and our big toe side of the foot pushing away. And this happens with some slight internal rotation through the upper thigh here. Big inhales and exhales. Focus on breathing through your back line. So really feeling the back part of your rib cage expanding with each inhale. And relaxing with each exhale. So when you're ready, you can come up and out. Reach up with both arms. If you have it in you, we can do another vinyasa. Step back. Move through your pose. Otherwise, just stay with your breath. All right, coming all the way back down. I'm going to move through some rotations, spinal twists, to help neutralize the spine even more. So we're going to take our right foot, bring it up so that maybe the big toe tucks under the front knee, this extended knee. Otherwise, we can take the whole foot, bring it over to the opposite side. So whole sole of the foot is down on our mat. We can take the left arm, wrap around the front of our right leg. Take the right arm, lift it up, prop it just behind us so we can lift up nice and high. So trying to lift up and out of our pose, growing the spine as tall as it will go. And then when you're ready, release the pose, unwind your pretzel, extend the other leg. Give your legs a shake. We'll do the other side. So this time, left foot comes up, maybe the left toe tucks underneath the right knee and it stays here. Or if you have the space, it comes across, whole sole the foot down on the mat. Right hand, right arm wraps around the left leg. Left arm reaches up and behind, but just the fingertips are down on your mat. Working to come in through a spinal twist. Sitting up as tall as possible. So this low back here is flat. It is not rounded. Pubic bone dropping down towards the floor. When you're ready, inhale, come back through neutral. Extend both of the legs, roll them out, give them a shake. Then from here we scoot forward and slowly roll all the way down onto our backs. Draw the knees in, give them a squeeze. Feel the entire low back down on the floor here. And then as we release this pose and put the soles of our feet down on the mat, feel how maybe now the low back might lift up a little bit. So from here, we're going to imagine lifting the whole back up in one
slab, for lack of a better word. So we're not going to articulate the spine like we normally do, where we lift one vertebra at a time and peel the back off the mat. This time it's going to come up like a hinge, okay? So from here, with our pelvis in neutral, hands down on our mat, toes maybe slightly turned in, and if we could get our feet close enough so that we can brush the backs of our heels with our fingers, excellent. If they don't come in that far, just bring them in as close as they will come. And then from here, focusing on lifting the back as one entire piece up off your mat. We lift up. Feel your glutes working here. So the glutes are engaged, maybe the hamstrings are engaged. And then we can slowly release, come all the way down, one hinging motion. So the back of the pelvis and the upper back are touching down at the same time if possible. And then inhale, come all the way up one more time. We're going to stay here for a couple breaths. Feel your knees drawing in towards each other, so don't let them wander apart. Feel the glutes working, opening up through the front of the hip flexors. Feel your heels drawing back towards your head. And when you're ready, we'll inhale, exhale, slowly come down. Whole back coming down at one piece. And when you're ready, legs come in, giving them a squeeze one more time. We can allow our hands to come out to the side, and we'll come through some small spinal twists here. So take both knees, dropping them over to the left. If you'd like, you can have a prop ready to catch them. Today I'm using my blanket. You want to be able to keep both shoulders down on your mat. Nice and steady and even. Breathing all the way in, all the way out. And when you're ready, inhale, come back through center. And then we'll come over to the other side. So if you need to, you can move your prop. And exhale, knees go over to the right. If you want to finish the spinal twist, you can look over the opposite shoulder with your face. But it's not necessary if that feels strenuous or harmful to your neck. Take your time. Breathe all the way in, to all the way out, even though I know it's difficult in a spinal twist. Do what you can. Then when you're ready on an inhale, you can come back to center, give the knees a squeeze, and then it's time for Shavasana. So, you know I'm a big fan of choose your own journey for Shavasana. Lots of options. Traditional Shavasana is always there. You can always do a lifted fish pose, something like that. But for me today, I'm going to throw my legs over the edge of my sofa. So I feel like that's going to give me a really nice sense of grounding after such an uplifting practice. So scoot over next to my sofa. I'm going to bring my blanket with me because I do want to be covered up. So once I'm here on my side by side, I'm going to lift my legs up and rotate towards my sofa as I lay down. Then I'm going to take my blanket, throw it over my feet, making sure I'm definitely covering the front of my hip flexors. We did a lot of work with that joint today, or hip flexor joint, so make sure you cover up so that all of the energy, all the blood flow in the joint doesn't cool you off too quickly. But wherever you are, regardless of your pose, your final resting pose, I'm hoping that you're finding something comfortable for you in which you can relax and settle. So for me, I'm bringing my hands onto my stomach, palm face down, because even this action, palm face down, hands on my body, will help to soothe my nervous system even more, deepening my sense of relaxation. So notice how your back feels in whatever pose you're in. Notice where it comes in contact with the floor. Notice where maybe there's a slight lifting, natural curve. Feel the weight of your joints dropping down into the floor. Relaxing your major muscle groups. And relaxing the front of your throat. Your jaw, tongue, and the space in between your eyes. Tuning back into your body and your breath. Following each inhale and each exhale. Know that you are always welcome to stay here for as long as you wish. But if you'd like to end with me, you can slowly begin to find small movements, fingers and toes, wrist or ankle circles, a roll of the head, stretch of the arms, whatever helps you feel at home in your body. And then when you feel ready, you can slowly roll off to one side, being mindful of any props around you. Taking your time. Feeling the expansion of the breath on 3 sides of the body and the support of the earth on the 4th. And then when you feel ready, slowly working your way up to seated. Taking your time. So I hope this class leaves you feeling a little bit taller and then a little bit more able to breathe freely throughout your life and certainly the rest of your day. So as always, thank you very much for practicing with me today. Take care. Namaste.